Welcome to Daily Wisdom, Walking the Path with the Buddha, a podcast shared by David Roylance. This podcast is dedicated to guiding you to completely eliminate the discontent mind and the suffering it causes by attaining enlightenment. Learn and practice the teachings of Gautama Buddha that will guide you to fully attain a peaceful, calm, serene, and content mind with joy. To support this podcast, visit patreon.com/support Buddha or visit buddhadailywisdom.com, where you will discover a full range of courses, retreats, and online learning resources to assist you on the path to enlightenment. Now, here's our teacher to share more.
Sawadee Kap. Hello and welcome to Daily Wisdom, Walking the Path with the Buddha. Today is our group learning program, and I'm going to be sharing with you a 4-part series on breathing mindfulness meditation. This is the first part of a 4-part series that I'm going to teach over the next 4 Wednesdays. This is going to help you to understand the ins and outs of breathing mindfulness meditation and build up your practice. Because right here at the beginning of the group learning program, students are oftentimes working on building up their practice. So that's what I'm going to be helping you to do over the next 4 Wednesdays. As we go in our class today, the way I'm going to help you is I'm going to first introduce you to the breathing mindfulness meditation and using the words of the Buddha to help you understand this. We're going to be talking about some meditation basics and using the words of the Buddha to help you see some of the things that he taught around meditation. And then ultimately, as I teach you the why and the how of meditation, then we're going to ultimately do a meditation session. So welcome to our class today, whether you're joining for the first time or you're joining regularly, or even if you're watching this on the replay, because I know maybe many of you guys are actually watching on the replay. So welcome to our class today. As you have questions, I'm going to be pausing at different times. You're always welcome to ask those by putting them into Facebook, YouTube, or Zoom in the comment section, or you can raise your hand electronically in Zoom and then unmute your microphone, and then you'll be able to ask any and all questions that you like. So first, just to help us with some meditation basics, I'm going to share with you guys some of the basics of meditation, just to kind of lay some groundwork as I share with you guys the teachings on breathing mindfulness meditation. So just some basics here is that meditation is a technique to actively train the mind during dedicated, independent, purposeful training sessions to eliminate unwholesome qualities of the mind and or cultivate wholesome qualities of the mind in the positions of seated, lying, standing, or walking. So this is the definition that I share to help people understand what meditation is, and also I share what meditation is not, because I'm going to be sharing with you all throughout today's class and other parts of your learning with me about meditation, and I'm going to be using the word meditation, and it's important to not assume that everybody thinks of meditation in the same way. So I start off some topics with just defining what it is that I'm talking about, because with so much impermanence in the world, not everybody thinks about meditation or any other topic in exactly the same way. So whether you think about meditation in this way or not is up to you, but at least you'll know when I'm talking about meditation, what is it that I'm describing. So this is meditation, a dedicated, independent, purposeful training session where you're eliminating certain unwholesome qualities and cultivating certain wholesome qualities. And this is done in 4 different positions that the Buddha taught: seated, lying, standing, and walking. And just as important as it is to understand what something is, it's also important to understand what something is not, because meditation is not exercising or walking the dog, gardening, driving. Nowadays, in common language, somebody might say, oh, I'm going to go for a drive and meditate, or I'm going to go walk the dog and meditate, or I'm going to go to the gym and meditate. And if somebody was doing those kinds of things, you're going to hear me share here in a bit that it's advisable to do 2 or 3 meditation sessions a day. Well, if someone was just going to walk the dog 2 or 3 times a day, thinking that they're actually meditating and making their way to enlightenment, this wouldn't actually produce enlightenment. While you might enjoy these things of exercising, walking the dog, gardening, driving, any other things like this, you might enjoy those things and choose to do those things. It's important to make sure you understand that it's not meditation, because then when I make the recommendation of meditating 2 or 3 times a day, you'll know exactly what it is that I'm talking about that you need to be doing in order to move the mind to enlightenment, eliminating unwholesome qualities and cultivating wholesome qualities. As part of your meditation practice and developing your mind on the path to enlightenment, it's important to have a teacher. As you guys may know, that it's only a Buddha that would be able to get to enlightenment by themselves without the help of any teachers or any guides. So you're going to need a teacher in order to help you and guide you, because as you're meditating, as you're training your mind, as you're experiencing all these different things, you're going to have questions, and you can't ask questions to a book. You're going to need somebody that you can reach out to, that understands you, that you trust, that you have confidence in, because you're going to be experiencing various things in your meditation. And as you're experiencing those things, you would like to check in with somebody and not maybe let them know what you're experiencing, so you can have confidence that you're moving forward in a wonderful direction. Because oftentimes when students are meditating, they're experiencing all these different things that are very unique to them, that they've never experienced before. And oftentimes they will reach out and say, hey, David, what about this? What about this? I'm experiencing this. I'm experiencing this. And oftentimes what they get back is, that's normal. Just keep going. And that can give you some confidence to know that you're headed in the right direction. But if you didn't have a teacher to be able to do that with, you wouldn't be able to get that confirmation that you're headed in the right direction. So whether you consider me to be your teacher or not is up to you. That's a decision for you to make. But just know that you can always reach out to me. Even if I don't hear from you for 5, 10, 15, 20 years, you're always welcome to reach out to me at any time, because I don't have any expectation of what you should or shouldn't be doing at any given time. I'm just here to help you and support you in whatever way you decide that you would like that help and support. To illustrate this further so that you understand what I mean here, I'll give you an example of a situation where an individual didn't have a meditation teacher, and they didn't know that they needed a meditation teacher, and it really caused a lot of challenges for them. I don't suspect you will experience any of these things I'm going to describe, because you know that it's important to have a meditation teacher. But many individuals throughout the world that at different times didn't know that they needed a meditation teacher, and they experienced a lot of difficulties and struggles. There's been people that have committed suicide through this, because your mind kind of implodes on itself if you don't have the guidance that you need to head in the right direction. There's one particular person who contacted me several years ago that had been trying to awaken their mind on their own for about 2 years. They were watching different videos on YouTube, they were reading books and doing meditation and things like this. This individual was a practicing doctor in their country. They were a physician, and they got to a point where they were sleeping 23 hours a day. They were having obsessive thoughts. They were having deep, deep sadness. They were not able to work. They were having suicidal thoughts. Their relationships were falling apart. And they, at one point, decided that they were going to reach out to somebody. And they found me through the internet, and I started helping them. And after about 3 or 4 months, I was only making just marginal progress in being able to help them. So I invited this person to Thailand and suggested to them that it would be best if they came here so that I could help them. So eventually they did. They came here, and I was able to help them. And they ultimately went back to their home country, and they still struggled for a period of time, but ultimately they worked their way out of those difficulties and struggles. Now they're back to working. They're not sleeping 23 hours a day. They're a practicing physician again. They're not having those suicidal thoughts, those obsessive thoughts and things like that. But for about a 4 to 6 year period, this person's life was very hectic and wreaked a lot of havoc in their life because of the challenges and difficulties they had without having a teacher. So again, I don't suspect that any of these things will happen to you. I've never had any student who has actively been studying with me and learning experience these kinds of things. So I don't suspect anybody who actually has a teacher that is working with someone who really understands the mind and how to awaken to enlightenment would experience these things. But if you are off there on your own, or you're maybe working with somebody who doesn't understand the mind to be able to get to enlightenment, you could potentially experience these kinds of things. So be sure that you have a teacher that you have confidence in, and that you can get help from that individual as you're training your mind with meditation. There's 4 positions that the Buddha taught: seated, lying, standing, and walking. And I'm going to describe each of these to you so you understand what they are. And I'm going to also describe to you how I've used these in the past and how I even currently use them. So that way you'll understand how you can employ these at different times. But just understand that whatever I share about how I use these positions doesn't mean that that's instantly or magically going to work for you. Remember, there's nothing on this path that is based in belief. So I'm going to share with you how I use these, but then you don't just believe that and you don't just follow it. You can use it in those same situations that I use these in, but also if you have other situations where you kind of think that maybe you could use these positions, go forward with that, right? You're not following me. You're not a devotee. You're an independent practitioner who's journeying on this path and coming to someone like me for guidance about how I actually use these and other teachings of the Buddha to train this mind, but you're going to need to figure these things out for yourself. So what I'm going to share with you is just guidance and recommendations, but you need to be able to see the truth for yourself in what situations these positions work and what situations they don't work. So the seated position, an individual would either be sitting on the floor, in a chair, a bench, a sofa, a wheelchair. You can really sit however you're comfortable. This is kind of like the primary position that a lot of people meditate in, that you'll find that a large majority of people meditate in the seated position. I would say a good 90% of the meditation I've ever done, maybe even higher, has been in the seated position, where I'm either sitting on the floor, in a chair, or something of this nature. If you're on the floor, you probably have some cushions under your rear with your legs lightly crossed because you're not interested in impeding the circulation. Some people like to put their legs off the mat, which gets the hips up in the air, and it lessens the angle at the hips, the knees, and the ankles. The Buddha put his right hand over his left with his thumbs together, and he put that into his lap, but you could put your palms on your thighs, on your knees, or your palms up. You could put your hands comfortably in your lap. All of these are options. There's not just one fixed way to actually sit. If you're in a chair, it's the same kind of thing. You can sit however you're comfortable, whether you're on a sofa, a bench, or a wheelchair, or anything. Oftentimes people put their feet flat on the floor or lightly cross at the ankles. But the chair that I sit in at the temple, I actually cross my legs. I can sit cross-legged in that particular chair. So that's an option as well. And then if you're in a chair, you can put your hands and arms wherever you're comfortable. It's helpful if the upper body is erect. The Buddha talks about this too in his teachings, that if you have the sternum up and the shoulders back, this is going to help keep the mind attentive and alert during your meditation. It also helps you to breathe in through the nose and out through the nose. Because remember, this is a dedicated, active, purposeful training session. So you would like the mind to be attentive and alert. This isn't a time to zone out. So by having the sternum up and the shoulders back, it'll keep the mind attentive and alert. The Buddha calls this an upright body or a straight body or an erect body. And he talks about it and describes it as part of the preparation for meditation. You're going to see that this actually works. But when you're in the seated position, sometimes there can be pain. You can have lower back pain or hip pain or something like this. And that's where the lying position comes in. You could just lie on the floor or anywhere really where you're on your back, face up, maybe your hands are out to the side. If you've ever done yoga, I think they call this resting pose or corpse pose, shavasana pose, if you're familiar with these kinds of things. This is where you're just laying on your back, face up, and your arms out to the side. What you're going to be doing with the mind is exactly the same from the seated, lying, and standing positions. So you're not going to change anything about the meditation itself. You're just changing the position to allow the body to be more comfortable. I've even used the lying position one time when I was in a motorbike accident many years ago, that my legs were pretty banged up and I couldn't cross my legs. I couldn't sit. So I was lying in a hospital bed with an IV hooked up to me, and I was able to lay there and meditate even though I was in the hospital. So you can use it in those kinds of situations too, because it's not possible for your body to be in the same position permanently. And you're going to need to have a long-term, consistent meditation practice. So for the week and a half that I couldn't cross my legs, if I would have not been meditating at that point in time, my mind could have easily regressed. But by continuing to meditate, I was able to continue to move the mind forward. Then when you're in the seated and lying position, sometimes you might get sleepy or drowsy. And if you would like to extend your meditation session, you can switch to a standing position where you just stand with your feet essentially at shoulder width, and you might clasp your wrist in front of you or behind you, or you might just put your arms along the side of your body. You can use this if you're finding that you're sleepy or drowsy, but I've also used it at like a bus stop where I was waiting for a bus and I knew I'd be there for 10, 15, 20 minutes and there was nowhere to sit down. I might just stand there and meditate. I might not have considered that one of my 2 or 3 meditations, but it was kind of like a little touch-up meditation. And I've used it when I've like stood in line before. Like maybe I'm at a government office and I'm standing in line, and now this line only moves every 15 or 20 minutes. I could stand there and do a little touch-up meditation. So you could use it in those situations too. Walking meditation is also really helpful if you're noticing you're drowsy or falling asleep. You could use it for that. It's also helpful if you're noticing you have an overactive mind. If you have an overactive mind where the mind is restless and is kind of bouncing around with a lot of energy, and the last thing you're thinking about is sitting down or lying or being still, you could use the walking position. This is helpful. So I would teach the walking position in other programs. This particular program, it's not easy for me to teach it because I have a stationary camera here at the house. But I teach a course every month at the temple, and I teach walking meditation there. And I actually taught it today at the temple. So if you're interested in learning walking meditation, you could go to our YouTube channel, search for walking meditation, and you'll find it there, because we have the technology over there and the cameras and everything to be able to allow me to teach walking meditation over there. So these are the meditation basics just to help you get started. I would like to pause here and see if you guys have any questions before I move on deeper into the content that I have to share with you. So remember, you can ask your questions by putting that into Facebook, YouTube, or Zoom in the comment section, or you can electronically raise your hand in Zoom and ask any questions that you like. Okay, I'm not seeing any questions, so I'm going to move on to the next part, which is starting and conducting your meditation session. In getting ready to start and conduct your meditation session, it's helpful to have the background information to know that the mind is the boss and the body is the employee. What I mean by that is, in order to meditate, you're going to have to go through the employee to get to the boss. You're going to need to go through the body in order to get to the mind and train the boss. So if you were going to go see the boss and the employees were painful and uncomfortable, they're not going to take you to go see the boss. But also, if they're luxurious and complacent, they're not going to take you to go see the boss either. So your body is the same way. If there's a lot of pain in the physical body, it's not going to allow you to train the mind, because you're just going to be experiencing pain. But also, if the body is too luxurious with lots of pillows and blankets and all this kind of stuff, you're not going to be able to train the mind there too, because the mind's going to be too complacent and too dull and lethargic. So you'd like the body to be in the middle where it's comfortable, not painful and not luxurious, but in the middle where it's comfortable. If you read the teachings of the Buddha around meditation and he's describing how to actually meditate, he will typically say that before you meditate, set up mindfulness in front of you. You guys haven't necessarily learned what mindfulness is yet if you haven't learned the Eightfold Path with me, but I'll share with you just kind of in a brief summary what this is, and then you'll learn it later when I teach the Eightfold Path. What mindfulness is awareness of mind. More specifically, it's the 4 foundations of mindfulness, but you can generally think about it as awareness of mind. So when the Buddha is saying in his teachings to set up mindfulness in front of you before you start meditating, what he's saying is to set up awareness of mind, to bring some awareness of mind before you start meditating. Don't just plop down into meditation and start meditating, because you're not going to get the benefit that you could otherwise. So if you just plop down into meditation, it could be 5, 10, 15 minutes before you start actually experiencing benefit. But if you kind of take a moment or two, kind of bring some awareness to the mind, and then ease into the meditation, you're going to be getting benefit right from the beginning. So that's why I do chanting before meditating, because it helps to bring awareness to the mind and awareness to the breath and ease the mind into meditation and get more benefit out of the meditation itself. So if you're not going to chant, it's important to do something that's going to bring this awareness of mind to the mind as you're easing into the meditation. But if you do the chanting and you learn it with me, then you'll have a tool and technique to be able to do that. In terms of your time, frequency, and schedule of meditation, I can share with you that it's not possible for you to do meditation at exactly the same time every day. It's just not possible. So if you set in your calendar that you were going to meditate at 8 a.m. every day, it's not going to happen because of impermanence. The world's constantly changing. There were times where I was meditating and I was in my room all by myself, maybe 3 minutes, 5 minutes into my meditation, and my son walked in and said, "Hey, Dad, I need you to take me to school." And I was like, "Oh yeah, I thought your mom was going to take you to school today." He said, "Yeah, me too, but she's gone. I need you to take me to school." And I was like, "All right, well, I'll go take you to school." So you're going to have situations like this where you're not going to be able to meditate at exactly the same time. So rather than kind of set yourself up and sabotage yourself like that, just know that you're not going to be able to meditate at exactly the same time. And if you see anything anywhere where somebody tells you like, "Oh, you got to meditate at 3:30 a.m. every day," you can know from the universal truth of impermanence that it's just not possible to meditate at that time. And that's not what would produce enlightenment, because I can assure you that there's nothing special going on at 3:30 in the morning that would make your meditation any better or any worse. And remember, you're looking to get your meditation practice as close to what the Buddha did as possible, because that's what's going to actually lead to your enlightenment. And you can ask yourself, did the Buddha meditate at 3:30 a.m. every day? And the answer is no. And I know that confidently because timepieces weren't invented 2,500 years ago. The watch or the clock that keeps accurate time wasn't invented until after the Buddha's lifetime. So when you hear these kinds of things that people are saying, oh, you got to meditate at exactly the same time every day, you can understand that they haven't understood the very first and beginning teaching of getting to enlightenment, which is the universal truth of impermanence. And they haven't understood that the Buddha got to enlightenment without meditating at exactly the same time every day. So you can too, right? So these are the ways that you can independently verify the truth, and you can have confidence in what it is that you're doing as a practice. So you're going to need to meditate throughout your day, throughout your weeks, throughout your months. You're going to need to string together a consistent long-term meditation practice. The Buddha meditated 3 times a day. It says in his teachings that he meditated morning, midday, and evening. So essentially, you'd like to have these anchor points where sometime in the morning and sometime in the evening, you're meditating. And if you can get a third one in the middle of the day somewhere, that would be ideal. If you're only meditating once a day, I can assure you that it's not going to produce enlightenment. You're going to need to get to the point where you're meditating at least twice a day, and then getting that third one in there if you can. What you're going to notice is frequency is more important than duration. So if you have the option of 1 meditation for 30 minutes or 2 for 15, go for the 2 for 15. That's going to be much more impactful for your mind because you're kind of getting the mind trained more frequently throughout the day. And if you missed one, like say you only do 1 meditation a day, if you miss 1 meditation, it's going to be 48 hours before you actually meditate again. Whereas if you miss a meditation and you're doing 2 per day, you're going to be meditating pretty soon right after that. So it's not going to be such a long time for your mind to regress. The way that you know how long you're meditating for is not by setting an alarm. I don't suggest you set an alarm when you don't need to. Now, if you're going to work and you only have 20 minutes to meditate, then, set an alarm for 20 minutes because otherwise you're going to be late and it's going to produce unwholesome results for you. But maybe on the weekend or on the evenings or something like this where you don't need an alarm, what I suggest you do is you look at the clock and you look at the start time, maybe 9 a.m. And then you start meditating. And now when you're done, you look at the clock again and it's 9:15 and you know that you've been meditating for 15 minutes. So you'd like to kind of check in like this about once a week. And this is going to help you to be able to know how long you've been meditating for. Because sometimes 5 minutes can feel like an hour and sometimes an hour can feel like 5 minutes. You don't need to meditate for upwards of an hour. That's not what you need in order to build a long-term sustainable practice and attend to all the other things that are going on in your life. Gradually, slowly but surely, you would like to build up to a 2 to 3 sessions per day for 30 minutes. That would be ideal. And if you do it a little bit more, that's fine too. But even if you did a little bit less, like say you got to 25 or 26, 27, you'll get to enlightenment. That's the mind moving closer and closer to that ideal, which is right around 30 minutes. So if it's not exactly 30 minutes, that's okay. So the reason why I don't suggest that you actually set the alarm is because what you're going to find is if you're in meditation with the alarm set, you're going to be thinking in your mind, is it time yet? Is it time yet? Is it time yet? Is it time yet? And this is the mind craving and longing, yearning, and you're trying to stop the mind from doing that. Or the second thing that could happen is you'll be deep in meditation, getting all kinds of benefit, and the alarm's going to go off. Beep, 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 and now you could have gotten so much more benefit if you hadn't set the alarm. So it's better to not set the alarm if you can, but of course there's going to be some situations where you're going to need to set the alarm. So 2 to 3 sessions per day for 30 minutes or more, and you're going to need to gradually build up to this, which can take 6 months, a year, even 2 years to build up to that kind of practice. But remember, you're not in a competition with anybody, you're not in a race, this is your practice. So frequency is more important than duration. So even if you're meditating 1 time right now, just get a second one in there, even if it's 3 minutes, 5 minutes, 10 minutes, and then just gradually expand that longer and longer and longer. When you're meditating, particularly when you first start out with your practice, you might notice that you get sleepy during meditation. This is because the mind's working kind of hard and it's really challenged, right? Because it's not used to this training. It's kind of like if you hadn't worked out at the gym and exercised for a really long time or maybe your entire life, and all of a sudden you started going to the gym and lifting weights, you'd be pretty exhausted at first. But then as you build up your stamina and you build up your muscle strength, it would become easier and easier for you. So meditating is similar in that when you first start, your mind's having to do all this work to get training, and you can notice that you'll be sleepy during meditation and maybe even sleepy after meditation. So you have a couple of options here. One thing is you could just change positions, switch to a standing or a walking if you'd like to extend your meditation session. The second thing you could do is just get some sleep. Because what you're going to notice is that right now, even if you're sleeping 8 hours or so, your quality of sleep might not be very good. And you might have been doing that for multiple years. And now that you're meditating, your mind's finally getting what it needed all these years and all these lifetimes. It's almost like a dry sponge absorbing all of this. And now that your mind will start performing more optimally, you might notice that you become more sleepy. And also because the mind's working and getting more tired because of the work that it's doing in order to get trained. So if you're 3 minutes, 5 minutes into your meditation and you're noticing you're really drowsy and sleepy, take a nap. When you wake up, meditate then, right? So you can always do that, either switch positions or actually get a nap and meditate later. When you're meditating, you might notice some physical sensations during your meditation. This is pretty common. This is like, scratches or itches or things like this. And if you're noticing this, if you don't need to scratch it, that's ideal. Like just focus on the breath, understand that itch is impermanent, it's going to arise, it's going to change, and it's going to fade away. Just train your mind that the body can't be permanently comfortable, and that's okay. Just stay focused on the breath if you can. But as you're doing this, you might notice that you just have this overwhelming urge to itch or the scratch. And if that's the case, go ahead and scratch. And maybe it took like 5 seconds or 8 seconds for you to get to that point. Well, next time, try to extend it longer. Try to make it 10, 12, or 15 seconds, ultimately making that longer and longer to the point where you can just stay focused on the breath and you're unaffected by those little itches and scratches in the body, so that you can train the mind that, hey, these things are impermanent, the body is not going to be permanently comfortable, and that's okay. You might notice visual stimulation during your meditation. This is where you might see different colors or different images. So I will share with you what's going on here, because sometimes people contact me and they're like, hey, David, I saw green. Does that mean I'm going to get rich since I saw green in my meditation? Or, I saw purple. Does that mean my boyfriend or girlfriend is going to come back to me? The answer is no, that's not the case at all. I'll explain to you what's actually occurring. So sight is actually occurring inside the brain. So your eye is just a lens that is bringing in light. So even when your eyes are closed, you can actually still see things. This is why you can have images inside the mind, because the sight is actually occurring inside the brain. So when your eyes are closed and you're meditating, you can actually still see things. So what you're doing in meditation is you're training the mind. The brain is something completely different. It's a tangible item. It's a physical item. It's part of the body. The mind is non-physical. It's not tangible. You can't point to where it's at because it's not a physical object. So when you're training the mind, there's an effect to the brain, because while these two things are different, there's a connection between them. So as you're training the mind, there can be an effect to the brain. Scientists and researchers, doctors are showing us this. They're starting to measure these things with MRIs and CAT scans and things of this nature. Those didn't exist during the lifetime of the Buddha, but nowadays they exist, so we can actually measure these kinds of things. And doctors are starting to see the physical structures of the brain are changing for people who are long-term meditators. There's certain benefits to the brain that the brain is physically changing. And just like the Buddha said, doctors are seeing that when the brain gets to a certain level of change, it never reverts backwards. It never regresses. The Buddha talked about this same thing, that when you get to a certain point in your development on the path, that your mind will never regress backwards. So doctors are confirming this kind of thing with us. So since the sight is occurring inside the brain, when the physical structures of the brain are actually changing, it produces sometimes white colors, green, purple, or different images. And you can also experience observation of past lives sometimes in meditation as well. It can happen outside of meditation, but it can also happen inside meditation as well. So these things are very common. There's nothing mystical or magical about this. You're not a special person or anything like this. You can just cut that off and keep bringing the mind back to the breath. When I was not practicing these teachings, I used to walk around with a lot of pressure in my head and in my skull. I used to get migraine headaches maybe 3 to 5 times a week, all the way to the point where sometimes I would vomit. It was that bad. Sometimes I would be bedridden that I had such a migraine headache. Well, once I started training my mind, I started noticing these changes to the mind and to the brain. And now I don't have that pressure in the skull anymore. I don't get migraine headaches any longer. I don't do that vomiting or any of that kind of stuff. I very, very rarely even get a headache at all. It would have to be something like pollution, the air pollution or something like that, that would produce a headache for me at this point in my life. So you might notice these kinds of changes to your brain. I actually heard this while I was meditating one time. I heard like, which was the physical structures of the brain changing, and I felt an immediate release of pressure in the skull. So these are normal. So you might observe these kinds of things happening during your meditation practice and as you're training your mind. If you've been taught to meditate with external stimulus, what I mean by that is like beads or music or candles or incense or any of these kinds of things, you don't actually need any of these things to meditate. And if you've been meditating with those things now, that's what's got you to where you're at. Maybe you've been meditating with a phone app or something like that. But if your mind continues to hold on to those things, you wouldn't actually be able to train your mind to eliminate craving and clinging because your mind's still holding on to those things. And you won't be able to meditate anywhere, anytime. What I encourage you to do is strip those things out of your practice if you're currently using them to get to the point where you only need 3 things to meditate. And you're going to have these 3 things with you at all times. All you need is the body, the mind, and the breath. And if you have these 3 things with you, you can meditate. And like I said, you'll have these 3 things your entire life until your last breath is the body, the mind, and the breath. And the beauty about this is that say you're walking in a nice park somewhere and you're like, wow, this is really nice. The weather's nice. There's a nice breeze here. There's some ducks, quacking and some birds chirping. I think I'd like to sit down and meditate. Well, you can do that if your meditation practice is just based on the body, the mind, and the breath. But if there's that special candle, that special incense, that special pillow, that phone app or music that you need to meditate, you can't meditate in that situation. So you would like to strip all of those things out of your practice. And if you're using those things now, you can gradually move the mind away from it. Where one session you use it, one session you don't, one session you use it, one session you don't. You do that for like a week or so. Let your mind gradually acclimate to that. Then do one session with that stuff, 2 or 3 without, one session with it, 2 or 3 without, and do that for like a week or so. And then gradually expand this to 3 days, 6 days, 8 days, and eventually you'll get to the point where you're doing it one day and you're doing meditation without those things for 6, 7, 8, 10 days, and you're like, I don't even need that stuff anymore. So if you do these little small incremental changes when you're eliminating something unwholesome in your life and you're bringing something wholesome into your life, these little small incremental changes will actually be less noticeable to your mind because your mind doesn't like change. It craves permanence. So when you start making changes in your life, the mind tends to not like it. So you'd like to do these little small incremental changes and it'll be much more comfortable for the mind and your mind will acclimate to it more readily. So I'm going to pause here and see if you guys have any questions on what I've been sharing so far. You can put that into Facebook, YouTube, or Zoom, or you can raise your hand electronically in Zoom. Okay, I don't see any questions. All right, so now let me share with you some words of the Buddha on meditation. This is where he's kind of introducing the 4 meditations that he taught. Because nowadays, there's countless meditations out there in the world, and you're not going to be able to learn all of those. And some of them actually are taking your mind in the opposite direction of enlightenment. So it's important that you, again, get your practice as close to what the Buddha did as possible, because that's what's going to produce enlightenment for you. It's not just meditation that you need in order to get to enlightenment. There's plenty of other things that you need, but you wouldn't be able to get to enlightenment without meditation either. So you can't meditate your way to enlightenment, and you can't get to enlightenment without meditation. You're going to need this. One of the biggest myths about the life story of the Buddha is people think he sat under a tree, he meditated, and instantly got to enlightenment. And this just isn't true. It's gradual training, gradual practice, and gradual progress that's going to lead to your enlightenment. So you need to be able to understand the meditations that he taught. So these are his words where he's actually introducing the 4 types of meditation that he taught. And by focusing on only the ones that the Buddha taught, you can really deepen your practice. Whereas if you we're trying to learn 50 or 20 different meditations, your practice is going to be really broad. But if you can really fine tune these meditations, you'll be able to really deepen your practice and get really proficient at each one of these. There's only 2 that you actually absolutely need, and the other 2 are specialized meditations that are only used in unique situations. So prior to this particular statement that the Buddha is making, he was teaching his ordained practitioners about something else that I didn't include here because it doesn't relate to what I'm teaching you. So he's saying here, having based himself on these 5 things, meaning the 5 things that he was teaching prior to this, the monk should develop further another 4 things. Here he says the perception of unattractiveness of the body should be developed to abandon lust. So this is a meditation to eliminate sexual cravings, because that's one of the longing, yearning that the mind has, and you need to be able to restrain the mind, because you're not going to be able to be permanently happy and permanently cheerful and bright and radiant and uplifted if your mind is longing, yearning for sex. Because if you get sex, you're happy, and if you don't get it, you're going to be angry or sad or grumpy or irritable or frustrated or something else. So if you're having challenges with sexual cravings and it's producing this discontent feelings in your mind, you can knock that down with a certain meditation. Then there's loving kindness meditation should be developed to abandon ill will. So this is the anger, hatred, ill will, and all those lesser versions like frustration, agitation, annoyance, and so forth. By the time you get to enlightenment, you won't even have the slightest dislike towards another being. Right now, you might like certain people and you dislike other people, but that dislike is coming from your own mind. There are certain expectations, certain wants that you have. And if people meet those, you like them. But if they don't do things your way, you dislike them. So you can eliminate all of that by arising this loving kindness in the mind. And I'm going to start a 4-part series on loving kindness meditation 4 weeks from now, where I'm going to be teaching you that inside and out, and we're going to actually be doing it together over the course of those 4 Wednesdays to build up your practice. Here at number 3, the Buddha says mindfulness of breathing, or breathing mindfulness meditation, should be developed to cut off thoughts. Okay, so this is what's going to help you to restrain the mind and train the mind to let go. Because the underlying problem that's causing all the anger, sadness, frustration, irritation, annoyance, guilt, shame, fear, stress, anxiety, loneliness, boredom, shyness, resentment, jealousy, all of that stuff and others is being caused by your mind longing, yearning, by holding on to things tightly. Your mind can't let go. So what you're doing in breathing mindfulness meditation is you're training the mind to let go so that you can accomplish the ability to do that in day-to-day life, which I'm going to explain to you here in a little bit. So the Buddha here is explaining to you that meditation is developed to cut off thoughts. You're not trying to eliminate your thoughts, but you're trying to gain discipline and control over your mind so that you can restrain it. So that when you're noticing the anger coming up and the frustration coming up, you can restrain the mind, pull it back, and let go of whatever it is that the mind's holding on to. But you wouldn't be able to do that if you didn't know and you weren't practicing the breathing mindfulness meditation. So we're going to talk about this one in a lot more detail here in a moment. Then there's the perception of impermanence should be developed to eradicate the conceit I am. When one perceives impermanence, the perception of non-self is stabilized. One who perceives non-self eradicates the conceit I am, which is nibbana, or enlightenment, in this very life. So this is a meditation that's going to help you to realize non-self. This is something that if you've just started learning with me, you're not familiar with what that is, no worries. As you learn about the teachings of the Buddha more, you'll understand what realizing non-self means. So these are the only 4 meditations that the Buddha taught. If you've learned things other places, no matter where it is, even if it was at a temple, even if it was with a Buddhist monk or anything like that, if it isn't one of these 4, the Buddha didn't teach it. And if you're practicing it, it could potentially lead your mind away from enlightenment. So we're going to really focus in on this breathing mindfulness meditation. These are the 4 meditations that the Buddha taught. And remember, I shared that meditation is a dedicated, independent, purposeful training session where you're eliminating certain unwholesome qualities and cultivating certain wholesome qualities. So here, what I've done is I've broken it down and I'm showing you with each individual meditation, what is the unwholesome qualities that that you're eliminating and what is the wholesome qualities that you're cultivating. So we're going to focus on breathing mindfulness meditation today. What you're eliminating with this meditation is the craving, the desire, the attachment, the clinging, the longing, the yearning, the expectations, holding on to things and wanting things to be a certain way. This is going to train your mind to let go. And it's cultivating the wholesome quality of mindfulness or awareness of mind. So you can be aware of what's going on within your own mind, because you're going to need to know that the anger is arising, or you're going to need to see the jealousy or the resentment so you can train your mind to let it go. But if you don't have mindfulness or awareness of mind, you wouldn't be able to do that. So I'm going to help you to be able to do that with learning breathing mindfulness meditation. And you're also going to be developing concentration or focus and clarity, singleness of mind, being able to focus on a single object. So this is the goals of breathing mindfulness meditation. This is the reason why. And when you learn the Eightfold Path over the next coming 3 Sundays, you're going to understand more of why the Buddha is teaching you this breathing mindfulness meditation at this particular time frame. So the other 3, we're going to talk about those at other times in this program, because today is all about breathing mindfulness meditation, because that's the primary meditation that the Buddha taught, and you need to build up that practice first before you bring in any of these others. Here's some more words from the Buddha on meditation. He says, a pot without a stand is easy to tip over. A pot without a stand is easy to tip over. So the pot here is your mind, and the stand is your meditation practice. What he's saying is a mind without a meditation practice is easy to become discontent. So when you're meditating, each day that you're putting together your meditation practice and you're consistently meditating for more and more time frame in terms of like 1 month, 5 months, 10 months, each time you're creating a wider and wider stand, and your mind's going to be becoming more and more stable and steady, where it's more and more challenging for your mind to become discontent because you're training it and your mind's more disciplined and more controlled. So you can keep this in mind. A pot without a stand is easy to tip over. A mind without a meditation practice is easy to become discontent. Then here's some words from the Buddha where he's talking about essentially the purpose of breathing mindfulness meditation and what's its objective. Here he says, monks, there is one thing that, when developed and cultivated, it leads exclusively to liberation, to freedom from strong feelings, to elimination, to peace, to direct knowledge or experience, to enlightenment, to nibbana. What is that one thing? Mindfulness of breathing, breathing mindfulness meditation. This is that one thing that, when developed and cultivated, leads exclusively to liberation, to freedom from strong feelings, to elimination, to peace, to direct knowledge or experience, to enlightenment, to nibbana. So what he's saying here is there's one goal for this breathing mindfulness meditation. It's to get to enlightenment. It's to get to this peaceful and joyful mental state where you've eliminated the strong feelings, where you can have freedom from that, right? So he's not saying you only need one thing in order to get to enlightenment, because otherwise he would have just taught meditation and that's it. We wouldn't have 45 volumes of books that are this thick, right? So what he's saying is that this particular meditation, it's going to lead to enlightenment, and this is what's going to produce enlightenment for you. But he's not saying you only need one thing, right? It's kind of like saying your car, it leads to one thing, which is transportation. But of course, you need more in your life than just transportation. You need food and shelter and clothing and things like this, right? You need medical care. You're not going to be able to sustain your life with just transportation. So you're not going to be able to get to enlightenment with just meditation. But if you're practicing this particular meditation, it has one objective. It has one goal, which is to help you get to enlightenment. That's the goal of this meditation. So in terms of doing the actual meditation itself, you would like to focus on the breath, either the sound of the breath or the sensation of air moving over the skin into the nose. That's the present moment. And when you're hearing me guide you in meditation, you're going to need to focus on the sound that's coming into the nose or the sensation of air moving over the skin. Then, as thoughts are arising and your mind is moving off that breath, cut those off and let them go, bringing the mind back to the breath. You are going to have thoughts in your meditation, but when you have them, cut them off and let them go. Notice your thoughts sooner and sooner and cut them off and let them go easier and easier. So the goal of this meditation is not to eliminate your thoughts, but it's to train the mind to easily let them go once you've had the thought. Right? So even an enlightened being has thoughts during their meditation. The difference is, in the unenlightened state, you'll have a bombardment of thoughts. It'll be like thought, 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 thought. Potentially that's what you're experiencing. Or you'll have a thought, you'll indulge in that thought, you'll look at it, you'll play with it, you'll be 2 or 3 minutes down the road, and then you'll realize, oh yeah, I'm meditating. Let me bring my mind back to the breath. Right? So that's what an unenlightened being is typically experiencing during meditation. But that can get better and better. As you get to enlightenment, what you're going to notice is as soon as you have a thought, you notice it, and then you cut it off and let it go right away. And then in between your thoughts, there's this stillness of mind or this quietness of mind. And you might have 30 seconds a minute in between your thoughts, but then you're going to eventually have another thought. Right? So this is what you're going to experience as your mind's getting closer and closer to enlightenment. But I don't suggest that you judge your meditation as a good meditation or a bad meditation. That's not what's going to determine whether or not you're enlightened or not. You need to look at your life. Are you arguing with people? Are you judgmental? Are you conceited? Are you frustrated and agitated or annoyed? Are you looking down on people? Are you trying to force people to do things? Are you trying to convince people that your way is the right way? These are the kinds of things that are going to help you to be able to see if your mind's getting closer and closer to enlightenment. Because there's certain situations where you get agitated and frustrated. And when you're having those same situations and you're not getting agitated and frustrated anymore in those situations, that's how you know you're making progress. So it would be unwise to judge your meditation as being good or bad. Right? Because every meditation is helpful. Let's just say you sat down in meditation and you had a bombardment of thoughts. You had tons of thoughts coming through. And at the end of your meditation, you're like, whoa, this mind is really busy today. Well, you just gained some insight, right? You know your mind's busy. Maybe if you have like really impactful decisions to make today, you can delay those and not make those today. If you've gotten to the end of your meditation and you're like, whoa, this mind is really busy, that means you're cultivating mindfulness or awareness of mind. You're aware of the mind. That was a beneficial meditation, right? So you should never think that you've had a bad meditation. Every single meditation is helpful. And it's important not to judge your practice of whether you're making progress on the path or not through your meditation. This would be unwise to do that. So what you would like to do is train your mind to be aware when it's not in the present moment, when it's not on the breath. Developing your mindfulness or awareness of mind, which you're going to learn what the 4 foundations of mindfulness are, and you can develop this concentration or this singleness of mind, training the mind to let go, where you're not allowing the mind to long and yearn. This is going to eliminate your craving, desire, attachment. So do you guys have any questions here at all that you would like to ask? Because if not, I'm going to guide you in a meditation session so that you guys can practice this. And we're going to be doing this each one of our classes so you can build up your meditation practice. But I'd like to pause and see if you have any questions on the meditation or why it's being done, the goals, the objectives, how it's done, and all these different things. So remember, you can put that into Facebook, YouTube, or Zoom in the comment section, or you can raise your hand in Zoom and ask any questions that you like. Okay, I'm not seeing any questions anywhere. So if you guys would like to join for a meditation session, I'm going to do some chanting to ease us into the meditation. I'm then going to come in with some guidance to be able to guide you in the meditation session. There's going to be a period of time where it's just quiet and we're all meditating together. Then we're going to come out of the meditation with some more chanting. I'm going to teach these chants in about 2 months from now, but if you'd like to see them, you can go to buddhadailywisdom.com, click on free books, and then scroll down towards the bottom and you'll see the chants. And the English translations are there too. It's important to understand that this isn't a rite, a ritual, or a ceremony or worship. It's not prayer or anything like that. During the lifetime of the Buddha, it was used in order to commit the teachings to memory because everything he taught was oral. So they would recite his teachings orally through chanting as a way to commit them to their memory. So you can see from the origins of chanting that there isn't anything mystical or magical about these particular chants. Today, we don't need to chant in order to remember the teachings because we have books and audiobooks and things like this, podcast videos. But I still chant because it's going to help you to ease the mind in the meditation and get more benefit out of the meditation. So you can take whatever position you like, seated, lying, standing, those are all options for you. I'm going to do this chanting, which you guys are welcome to join in on, and then I'll be back with the guidance after that. Arahang หังสัมมาสัมพุทโธ Arahang สัมมาสัมพุทโธ 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 Arahang สัม มหาเควาโหตังมหาเกวันนังอภิวาเตมิสวากขาโตมหาเควตาธัมโมธัมมังนามัสสามิสุปฏิปันโนมหาเควโตสาวกสังโฆสังฆังนามามินับโมรัสสะภะคะวะโตอะระหะโตสัมมาสัมพุทธัสสะนับโมรัสสะภะคะวะโตอะระหะโตสัมมาสัมพุทธัสสะนับโมรัสสะภะคะวะโตอะระหะโตสัมมาสัมพุทธัสสะอิติปิโสมะคะวะอะระหังสัมมาสัมพุทโธวิชาจารณังสัมมุโนสกขาโตโรกาวิตุอนุเตโรปุริสาธัมมาสติสัตตาตาวามนุสนังพุทโธภะคะวะติ Okay, with the lower body and hands and arms comfortable, and the upper body erect. Just close the eyes and start breathing in through the nose and out through the nose. Here you're just looking to establish the breath, a nice, natural, steady, consistent breath. Not forced or controlled, just a gradual inhale through the nose, experiencing the full breath. And then whenever you're ready, exhale out through the nose. Breathing in and out. Breathing in and out. Your breath may not match up with the guidance that I'm providing, and that's okay. This is your practice. I'm just here for guidance. You can use this voice as a reminder that whenever you get to the next inhale, breathing gradually through the nose, developing a nice, natural, steady, consistent breath. And then whenever you're ready, exhale out through the nose, experiencing the full breath. Breathing in and out. Breathing in and out. With the breath well established, start fixating the mind on the breath, either the sound of the breath coming into the nose or the sensation of air moving over the skin into the nose. The breath is the present moment. Fixate the mind on the breath, the present moment. Breathing in and out. Breathing in and out. With the mind fixated on the breath, whenever you notice that it moves off the breath, cut that off, let it go, and come back to the breath, the present moment. No need to observe the thought, label it, judge it, analyze it, or even try to figure out where it's coming from. Whenever you notice that the mind is moved off the breath, cut that off, let it go, and come back to the breath, the present moment. Breathing in and out. Breathing in and out. I'm going to be quiet now and let you do this work of focusing on the breath, cutting off and letting go anytime the mind moves off the breath. You have nowhere to go. There's nothing to do. No one needs you right now. This is your time to focus on the breath. Breathing in and out. อะระหังสัมมาสัมพุทโธมหะคะวาพุทธังมหาคะวันนังอภิวาเทมิสวากขาโตมหาคะวัตตาธัมโมธัมมังนามัสสามิสุปฏิปันโนมหาคะวะโตสาวกสังโฆสังฆังนามามินะโมตัสสะภะคะวะโตอะระหะโตสัมมาสัมพุทธัสสะนะโมตัสสะภะคะวะโตอะระหะโตสัมมาสัมพุทธัสสะนะโมตัสสะภะคะวะโตอะระหะโตสัมมาสัมพุทธัสสะอิติปิโสมะภะคะวะอะระหังสัมมาสัมพุทโธวิชาจารณังสัมมุโนสคาโตโรกาวิตุอนุเตโรปุริสานามาสติสัตตาตาวามนุสนังพุทโธภะคะวะติ Okay, if you guys would like to slowly make your way out of meditation. Okay, I'm just going to end with one thing and then I'll open up for any final questions that you guys might have now that we've done some meditation together. These are the words of the Buddha where he says, meditate, monks, do not be complacent, lest you regret it later. This is my instruction to you. This is the only thing you're going to see from the Buddha where he's kind of like, all right, go ahead, go do something, right? Like this is as strong as it gets. What he's essentially saying is that if you allow your mind to become complacent with meditation, you're going to regret it later. Regretting it later means when you're angry, when you're sad, when you're feeling bored or lonely or frustrated or any of these other discontent feelings, you're going to regret having not applied determination, dedication, and diligence to your meditation practice. So he's just kind of giving you a heads up, like, hey, don't sit around and be lazy about your meditation. Make sure you apply effort and energy towards developing your meditation practice. That way you won't regret it later. So it's important not to allow complacency to set into the mind. Anytime you're noticing complacency in the mind, the quicker you take care of it and get your mind back to meditating, the better. The longer you allow your complacency to set in, the more challenging it will be to get out of that. So if you go 2, 3, 4 days without meditating, you need to really get right back into it, because if you allow that to be 3 weeks, 5 weeks, 10 weeks, it's a lot more challenging to get your mind out of that. There was a period of time where I went 2.5 years without meditating. It was the worst 2.5 years of my life, most likely, that I can kind of describe it that way pretty much. But eventually I got back into meditation, but it was very challenging at that time, right? So you're not interested in that going on, because if you get complacent, you're going to experience difficulties and struggles with the anger and the sadness and the stress and all these other discontent feelings. And one of the things that I share with people at this point is I say never give up. because giving up on your meditation practice is like just resigning yourself to being angry for the rest of your life, or stressed, or having anxiety or frustration the rest of your life. So don't ever, 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 ever give up on your meditation practice, because that's just resigning yourself to these feelings over and over and over again. There is an escape for you. You can escape out of these discontent feelings. You can escape out of any difficulties or struggles that you're having in life. There's just certain wisdom that the mind needs to cultivate, certain training that it needs. And as you do that, you'll be able to move beyond whatever challenges you're experiencing. But if you give up on training your mind, you're not going to be able to accomplish those kinds of goals. So I encourage you to never, ever give up on your meditation practice. So I'm going to pause here and see what questions you guys have about anything that I talked about today, any of the meditation or any of the aspects of your meditation practice. If you have questions, feel free to put that in Facebook, YouTube, or Zoom, or you can raise your hand in Zoom and ask any questions that you like. Okay, it looks like Leo has a question. Go ahead, sir.
Yeah, thank you, David. Yeah, first of all, thank you for answering the questions I had on WhatsApp. Thank you for that again. Mm-hmm. Then I would like to ask something about the craving I have. When I was watching a part of a class today in the morning, of some class, I realized the urge to get into my bed and play a video game. So when I turned my desk chair towards my bed and was right away to get in there, I turned the chair back to the table and watched more of the class video. I think after 3 times doing that, I moved in the bed and played the game actually then. Nevertheless, was that the way I should train it gradually? I mean, at the end, I still was going to the bed, but 3 times I cut it off and redirected the mind to the video. Is that the way how I should do it?
Yeah, slowly but surely you can cut off and let go, and you can get to the point where the mind's not doing that anymore, where it's not being pulled in that direction. But you're going to notice that it's like a candle flickering. As these cravings get extinguished, it's going to kind of flicker a little bit as it's going out. So you're going to notice that the mind's not going to just, literally cut it off and let it go. You're going to need to cut it off many, 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 many times before the mind ultimately lets go.
Okay. But I think this way was helpful, right? Or would it be, I think, of course, it would be better if I would have more dedication to stay longer on the video and watch it maybe until the end. But after 3 times, I moved in the bed. What do you think? Well, is it maybe a good way to do it because it's gradually and I'm not challenging the mind too much? Because if I would watch the whole video, it might be too much for my craving,
Yeah, it's important not to overanalyze what you're doing, but at the same time, using your mindfulness to see, is there a longing, yearning? Because there's no harm in pausing a video, going to do something else, and then coming back to it at another time. You got to notice, is there a longing, yearning for that thing that the mind's moving towards? So it's not just a matter of, I paused the video and played video games, is that a problem? It's not that clear cut. You need to be able to observe your mind. Nobody can tell you what your mind was doing at that time. That's where you need to have the mindfulness and see it for yourself.
Yeah. And as I shared at the beginning, there was this urge to do that, to go to the bed. Mm-hmm. This longing, yearning, right? This craving to jump in the bed and play a game. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So if you're noticing that, then you know it's a craving, and you need to work at cutting it off and letting it go.
Yeah, okay. Right. And I also would like to ask. So what I think I realized that I'm not paying so much attention to the bodily sensations anymore for some weeks now, as I did in the past. Yeah, and I'm trying to find out. Maybe you can help me with that. I think it might be maybe complacency, or it could be that I'm not paying much attention to the different teachings as I had back then, or does it mean that I'm doing the cutting off more automatically internally and I'm just not realizing it? or does it mean that I'm lacking mindfulness more than I did some weeks back then? I don't feel like I'm making setbacks, but I'm just not so aware of doing this internally cutting off.
Yeah. It sounds like all those things are true. Your mind's complacent that it's not taking the action to cut off and let go using right effort. The mindfulness isn't as developed as it once was. So this is where your practice goes up and down like this. Sometimes people think that your practice is just going to go like this, but that's not the way it goes. It doesn't just go straight up on a linear movement. It goes up and down like this. But over time, you're gradually progressing forward. So all those things sound true to me based on what you're saying.
Okay, but I don't feel bad or something. I don't feel worse than some weeks ago. I don't have the perception that this is the case.
Okay.
Okay, it's normal. It's nothing.
Yeah, this is what your practice is going to do. It's going to go up and down like this. It's normal. But if you know what you need to be doing and what you should be doing, and you keep training in that direction, then over a consistent long-term period, your mind's going to be able to move in that direction. But you're going to have ebbs and flows of this as you go.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. Then the last question, it just came in my mind. About the love and kindness meditation. Normally you choose to say, may all beings be free of all discontentedness, and so on, right? Would it be, you also shared in the past that I can use different phrases here. For example, may all beings get to enlightenment, may all beings get to enlightenment, something like that. I also thought about, could I also try out, may all beings be free of all craving, desire, attachments, and the suffering they cause, or the feelings that they cause. I don't know what would be better here. Or maybe the same with ignorance. May all beings be free of ignorance. And so.
Yeah, that's fine. What you're looking for is a non-burdening statement. Like if you said, may all beings be kind, that requires them to do something, right? Before you then practice loving kindness with them. So you're looking for statements that are not burdening. I know the statements that I use absolutely work. There's no reason to change them, but if people would like to customize it, they can. But I know that these 4 work because this meditation is designed to eliminate anger, hatred, and ill will and all the lesser versions. And if that's what you're interested in doing, I know these 4 work. So if somebody would like to change it, that's their own decision. But I know that these 4 work.
Okay. For example, if I use, may all beings be freed of all craving, desire, attachments, and the suffering it causes, or is it more and the feeling it causes? The suffering it causes?
I use the 4 that I use, Leo. Those are what worked. I haven't seen anger in this mind for a very long time. There's really no reason to change it. If you'd like to change it, it's up to you. But I'm not going to tell you that you should do the way that you're describing or another way, because I know the way that I do it works. And that's what I recommend and that's what I teach.
Yeah, it doesn't seem for me a big change because craving, desire, attachment, and discontentedness is what?
Why do you want to change it? If something's
I just want to try out.
Have you ever heard the old saying, if it's not broke, don't fix it?
Yeah, I heard about it. Okay. All right. Yeah, thank you.
Okay, we'll see you. All right, looks like Ray has a question. Go ahead, sir.
Can you hear me, David?
Yeah, sure can.
Namaste,
Hey,
David.
namaste.
I just want to say thank you for your sharing of your insight and wisdom of Gautama Buddha's teachings. It's helped me profoundly.
Yeah, you're very welcome.
I've been practicing and studying Buddhism for about 1 year and 3 months now, and the changes in my mind, especially, is profound. And I just say thank you for that. And about meditation, I just wanted to ask you some advice. I do a lot of walking with my dog Bodhi, and I named him Bodhi before I even thought of studying the Buddha's teachings. And I walk a couple miles every other day with him, and I want to develop a good daily practice, which I'm still working on. I maybe meditate on the most once a day, sometimes twice, and rarely 3 times a day. And I want to develop that a little bit better, and this is going to help me here in your online courses. But I want to develop a walking meditation, and I was wondering what your advice would be for that, since I do walk quite a bit.
Yeah, Ray, if you would like to look on our YouTube channel, I've recorded a walking meditation instruction multiple times. If you can't find it for some reason, you can send me a message and I'll get it for you and send you a link. But it only takes about maybe 10 minutes to teach it to you, and then you can actually do it. It's not just casual walking, it's very intentional walking. So if you're like walking your dog, you wouldn't actually be doing this walking meditation at the same time, most likely. So the walking of the dog is the walking of the dog, but this walking meditation is very intentional, very specific technique. So if you watch those videos and then you have questions, you can always let me know. But if you can't find the video, just let me know and I'll send it to you.
Excellent. I will go do that. Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. Pleased to help you. Okay, let me see if we have any questions anywhere else coming in. Right. I don't see any questions anywhere else. So what I'm going to do here is just end by thanking all of you guys for joining. I appreciate your questions. I appreciate your interest in learning. Pleased to help you, Ray. Pleased to help everybody with the teachings of the Buddha. His teachings actually work. That's one of the few things in the world nowadays when people advertise something and you purchase it, whether it works the way it was advertised is kind of a whole nother question, right? The teachings of the Buddha are very rare that they work exactly like advertised. Not that they're necessarily advertised or that you're purchasing them, but they work exactly the way that the Buddha taught. And if someone learns and practices his teachings, you can see this for yourself. So what I'm going to be doing over the next 3 Wednesdays is gradually expanding our meditation sessions so that you can meditate longer and longer periods of time. And I'm going to be opening up for questions that you guys have related to your practice. Over the next 3 Sundays, I'm going to be diving into the Eightfold Path in detail, which is the core central teaching of the Buddha, which is going to help you understand the path to enlightenment. So thank you all for joining. Thank you for your interest to learn and practice these teachings. If you'd like to attend any of these classes, you're more than welcome to, and pleased to help everybody who has a sincere interest to learn and practice on this path. So whatever you choose to do today, have a very wonderful and lovely rest of your day. Perhaps we'll see you next time. Sawadee krap.
Thank you for listening to this podcast. To provide support for this podcast, visit patreon.com/support Buddha. To access more teachings, visit buddhadailywisdom.com. There, you will discover a full range of courses, retreats, and online resources to assist you on the path to enlightenment. Remember to establish a daily, consistent meditation practice, along with learning and practicing these teachings. A well-developed meditation practice is the foundation in which to train the mind to attain enlightenment.